It all started with a big bang. Or did it? This is Pantheon mythology, and these are the creation myths from across mythology and folklore. Just quickly, if you love mythology, be sure to check out our clothing brand, Pantheon Apparel. Here you'll find epic designs inspired by mythology, folklore and legends. We ship worldwide and are rated excellent on Trustpilot. You'll find a link in the description. Now, let's get creating. In the beginning, there was nothing but the void. Out of this vast emptiness came the great god Ometekutli and Omesuatl, the dual deity who was born both male and female, chaos and order. From this primordial force, 4 children were born: Tezcatlipoca, the god of night; Quetzalcoatl, the god of wind; Huitzilopochtli, the god of war; and Xipe-Totec, the god of rebirth. Together, these gods would shape the fate of the cosmos and the world itself. The gods faced a daunting challenge. They had to create a stable universe, but creation, as they knew, required sacrifice. The first sun was governed by Tezcatlipoca, the dark god who pulled the cosmos into shape. Under his reign, the earth was populated by giant beings who roamed the land, living off acorns. But Tezcatlipoca's grip on the world was tenuous, and soon conflict arose between him and Quetzalcoatl. In a fierce struggle, Quetzalcoatl knocked Tezcatlipoca out of the sky, plunging the world into darkness. In his fury, Tezcatlipoca sent jaguars to destroy the giants, ending the first sun. Unperturbed, the gods began again. Quetzalcoatl, eager to restore the world, took the helm of the second sun. This new age saw the creation of normal-sized humans who ate piñon nuts and thrived. But envy stirred once again as Tezcatlipoca turned the humans into monkeys, mocking his brother's creation. Furious, Quetzalcoatl unleashed powerful winds, sweeping the monkeys away and ending the second sun. The third era began under the rule of Tlaloc, the rain god. People lived near the waters, feeding off seeds that grew in abundance. But Tezcatlipoca wasn't finished meddling. He stole Tlaloc's beloved wife, the goddess Xochiquetzal. Devastated, Tlaloc allowed fire to rain down from the heavens, burning the world to ashes, marking the end of the third sun. Determined to try again, Chalchiuhtlicue, goddess of water and wife of Tlaloc, took up the mantle of the fourth sun. She ruled with compassion and the people flourished, living on maize. Yet Tezcatlipoca whispered into her ear, sowing seeds of doubt. He told her that her kindness was not genuine, that she only did good to gain people's praise. Shattered by his words, Chalchiuhtlicue wept for 52 years, flooding the earth and turning humans into fish. Thus ended the fourth sun. The gods realized the pattern. A world could not sustain itself unless it was born from the ultimate sacrifice. So they gathered at Teotihuacan, the great city of the gods, to decide who would create the fifth and final sun. Tecoctezcatl, a god of wealth and pride, volunteered to sacrifice himself, but when it came time to leap into the flames, he hesitated. A small, humble god named Nanahuatzin, whose body was covered in sores, stepped forward. Without pause, he threw himself into the fire, bursting into brilliant flames. Ashamed by his cowardice, Tecoctezcatl followed, and both gods transformed into suns. But there could only be one true sun. The gods threw a rabbit at Tecoctezcatl, dimming his light, and he became the moon. Nanahuatzin, the lowliest of the gods, became the mighty fifth sun. Yet the sun would not move. It hung still in the sky, cold and lifeless. It was then that Ehecatl, the god of wind, stepped forward. He blew with all his might, setting the sun into motion, beginning the cycle of days and nights. But the gods knew that this sun would demand something in return: sacrifice. Without the nourishment of human blood, it would falter and the world would end once more. The Aztecs believed that their duty was to feed the sun with life to ensure its survival. This is the world of the fifth sun, the world we now live in. But as with the suns before, it too will come to an end, foretold to be destroyed by earthquakes, when the gods grow hungry once more. In the beginning there was nothing but a dark, formless void. From this endless chaos something stirred, something immense and ancient. It was the cosmic egg, containing within it the seed of the universe, and within that egg slept Pangu, the first being, a giant of unimaginable size. For 18,000 years, Pangu slept inside the egg, growing larger and stronger as the forces of yin and yang swirled around him in perfect balance. But one day, Pangu awoke, stretched his massive limbs, and with a great swing of his mighty axe, he shattered the cosmic egg, splitting it into two halves. The light, pure elements of the egg floated upwards, forming the sky, while the heavier, darker elements sank and created the earth. Thus, heaven and earth were born, separated by Pangu's towering figure, who stood between them, holding the heavens aloft with his head and pushing the earth down with his feet. For countless years, Pangu stood, never ceasing his vigil as the sky and earth gradually took form. Each day the sky rose higher and the earth grew thicker, and with each passing day, Pangu grew taller, pushing them farther apart. His breath became the wind, his voice the thunder, and his sweat the rain that nourished the land below. His eyes glowed like two suns, casting light and life into the empty world. Yet even giants must rest. After thousands of years, Pangu grew weary. With a final deep breath, he lay down upon the earth he had shaped and closed his eyes for the last time. As his mighty body came to rest, it transformed into the features of the world. His breath became the wind and clouds, his voice the rumble of thunder, and his blood the rivers and seas that flowed across the land. Pangu's skin turned into the soil, rich and fertile, his bones the towering mountains, and his hair the forests and trees that swayed in the breeze. His left eye became the sun and his right the moon, their eternal dance across the sky marking the passage of time. Even his body hair transformed, becoming the stars that twinkled in the heavens, watching over the world below. Yet Pangu's sacrifice did not end with the creation of the physical world. His spirit, too, lived on, giving birth to the three sovereigns, the heavenly sovereign, the earthly sovereign, and the human sovereign. These divine rulers nurtured the world Pangu had created, teaching the first humans how to cultivate the land, build shelter, and live in harmony with the elements. Under their guidance, the earth flourished and life spread across the land, thriving under the gaze of the sun and moon. Thus, from the cosmic egg and Pangu's mighty form, the world as we know it was born, shaped by his strength, his breath, and ultimately his sacrifice. And though Pangu himself never walked the land, his essence lived on in every tree, mountain, river, and breeze, a reminder of the giant who gave his life so that the universe might exist. In the beginning, before the sky was stretched above or the earth lay firm below, there was only the dark, endless waters of noon, a vast swirling ocean of chaos with neither light nor life, and all that existed lay dormant in the depths of noon. But hidden within this primal sea was the potential for creation, waiting to be called forth. From this nothingness emerged Atum, the self-created god, the very first being who rose out of noon's chaotic waters. Atum stood alone on the primordial mound called Ben-Ben, the only land in the endless ocean. He had no parents, no beginning, he simply willed himself into existence. Atum's power was immense, yet he longed for something more. He desired to create others, to bring order and life into the formless world. But how could one create without companionship? With only his divine will, Atum devised a way. First he coughed up Shu, the god of air, and from another breath came Tefnut, the goddess of moisture. Together, these siblings embodied the elements that would balance the chaos, air and water, breath and rain, forming the basis of life. Shu and Tefnut drifted into the watery abyss to explore the void, and for what felt like an eternity, Atum waited alone on the Ben-Ben. Time stretched infinitely as he longed for the return of his children. Finally, after what seemed like an age, Shu and Tefnut returned, and with them, the first spark of order began to form. Filled with joy, Atum wept tears of happiness, and from these divine tears the first humans were born, fragile yet full of potential. Shu and Tefnut, meanwhile, had given birth to the next generation of gods. Their children, Geb, the god of the earth, and Nut, the goddess of the sky, were siblings bound in an eternal embrace. Nut arched over Geb, her star-filled body forming the heavens, while Geb lay beneath her, his solid form becoming the land. But the harmony of their love disturbed Atum. The earth and the sky could not remain intertwined, for their union would prevent the creation of the world, and so Atum commanded Shu, the god of air, to separate them. With great effort, Shu forced Nut upwards, stretching her across the heavens, while Geb remained below. The stars glittered in Nut's belly, and the gap between them became the space in which all things would live. From Geb and Nut came the next generation of divine beings. Osiris, Isis, Set, and Nephthys. These gods would take up the task of ruling the earth, guiding the forces of life and death, and maintaining the balance in the world. Osiris, with his wisdom and justice, became the ruler of the fertile lands and the afterlife. Isis, his devoted wife, embodied motherhood and magic. Set, the god of chaos and desert storms, grew jealous of his brother's dominion, and the seeds of conflict between them were sown. Nephthys, the guardian of the dead, stood silently, watching over the souls who passed from the mortal realm into the afterlife. And so the cycles of creation, life, death, and rebirth began. From the tears of the gods, from the breath of the air, and from the separation of the earth and sky, the world continued to grow, flourish, and thrive under the watchful gaze of Atum and his divine children. Long ago, before the land, the sky, or the stars, there was only the boundless void. In this emptiness floated Ilmatar, the spirit of air. For countless ages she drifted alone, longing for more. Eventually she descended from the heavens, immersing herself in the depths of the primordial sea. The restless waters swirled around her, and as the wind stirred the waves, Ilmatar became pregnant with the force of the wind itself. For 700 years, Ilmatar floated in the waters, growing heavier with the life inside her, yet the world around her remained unformed. As she drifted, a magnificent bird, seeking a place to nest, descended from the skies. The bird landed on Ilmatar's knee and laid 7 eggs, 6 of gold and 1 of iron. Ilmatar, feeling the warmth of the bird, stayed still, but as time passed, the eggs grew hot and she shifted her leg. In that moment, the eggs fell into the sea and shattered. From the yolk of the golden eggs, the sun was born, casting its light across the waters. The white of the eggs became the moon, and the fragments of the shell turned into the stars and the clouds. The broken iron egg formed the land itself, creating the mountains and valleys, the forests and plains. Ilmatar then stretched her hand across the waters, shaping the headlands, rivers and lakes. Every movement of her body moulded the earth, crafting its features. With each breath, she brought forth life and finally gave birth to Wainamoinen, the wise and eternal sage. Wainamoinen, gifted with the power of song and creation, began to sing the world into order. His songs shaped the forests, calmed the seas, and filled the land with life, bringing balance to the world born from Ilmatar's sacrifice. Thus, from the great cosmic egg and the will of the air spirit Ilmatar, the world of men and gods came into being, guided by the wisdom of Wainamoinen. His voice echoed through the ages, ensuring that creation was never forgotten, forever linking the realms of earth, sky, and sea in harmony. In the beginning, there was only chaos, a yawning void of nothingness. From this vast emptiness, the first primordial beings emerged. Chaos gave birth to Gaia, the earth, solid and nurturing, and to Erebus, the personification of darkness, and Nyx, the goddess of night. They were the first to bring shape to the universe, but it was Gaia who would lead the world into its next stages of creation. Gaia, ever the mother, grew tired of being alone. From the depths of her being, she brought forth Uranus, the sky, a vast dome that stretched over her body. Together, Gaia and Uranus united, and their union gave birth to the Titans, powerful giant beings who would come to rule the world. But as more children were born, Uranus grew fearful of their strength. He cast them deep into the earth, imprisoning them within Gaia herself. Gaia, furious at Uranus's cruelty, plotted a way to free her children. She fashioned a great sickle and gave it to her youngest son, Kronos, the Titan of Time. In a moment of rebellion, Kronos ambushed his father, slicing through Uranus with a sickle and separating the sky from the earth. From Uranus's blood, more beings were born, including the terrifying Furies, avengers of wrongdoing. With Uranus overthrown, Kronos took over the world. He ruled with his sister wife, Rhea, and together they bore the first Olympian gods. But Kronos had inherited his father's paranoia. A prophecy foretold that one of his children would overthrow him, just as he had done to Uranus. To prevent this, Kronos swallowed each of his children at birth, trapping them inside his own body. Rhea, heartbroken by the loss of her children, devised a plan. When her youngest son Zeus was born, she hid him away on the island of Crete, giving Kronos a stone wrapped in swaddling cloths to swallow instead. Zeus grew up in secret, nurtured by the nymphs of the island, until he was strong enough to challenge his father. Years later, Zeus returned, and with the help of Titan Metis, tricked Kronos into drinking a potion that caused him to vomit up Zeus's siblings, Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, and Poseidon. Together, they waged war against Kronos and the Titans. This epic battle, known as the Titanomachy, raged for 10 long years. The Olympians were victorious, and Zeus, with his thunderbolt in hand, claimed the throne of the gods. He cast the Titans into Tartarus, the deepest abyss of the underworld, where they would be imprisoned for eternity. Zeus became the ruler of the heavens, Poseidon took the seas, and Hades claimed the underworld. Thus, the world as we know it was shaped, born from the void of chaos, moulded by the earth of Gaia, and ruled by the gods of Olympus. Yet the echoes of that primordial struggle remain, woven into the very fabric of the universe, where gods and mortals alike continue to battle for power, balance, and order. In the beginning there was nothing. The universe was an endless formless void, and in this infinite sea of nothingness floated Brahman, the supreme cosmic power, the source of all that was, is, and will be. Brahman existed in a state of pure being, unmanifest and absolute, a vast ocean of potential waiting to take form. Within Brahman stirred the desire to create, to bring forth life and the universe from the void. From this desire emerged the great god Brahma, the creator, seated within a golden egg that floated on the cosmic waters. Brahma meditated on the void, and from his mind sprang the beginnings of the universe. As he opened his eyes, the light of the creation poured forth, splitting the darkness. The first day dawned, and with it came the heavens, the earth, and the air. But Brahma knew that he could not shape the world alone. He reached deep into himself and divided his essence, forming the first beings who would help him bring order to the cosmos. From his mind he created rishis, the wise sages that would carry the knowledge of the universe. From his body he created the gods and goddesses, each with a role in maintaining the delicate balance of existence. The elements began to take shape. From Brahma's mouth came the wind, from his breath came fire, from his feet came the earth, and from his tears flowed the waters. With each breath, Brahma whispered life into the universe, creating not just a physical world, but time, consciousness, and the cycles of birth, death, and rebirth. In the center of this new world stood Mount Meru, the axis of the universe, around which everything revolved. Above the earth, Brahma placed the heavens, the realm of the gods, and below he cast the underworld, a place of shadow and mystery. The sky glittered with stars, and the sun and moon took their places, bringing day and night to the earth. Yet creation was not complete. Brahma saw that this world was still empty, devoid of life. So from his body he fashioned the first living beings, plants, animals, and humanity itself. The first man, Manu, was born from Brahma's thoughts, and it was Manu who would become the father of all humankind, guiding the people in their ways of life and devotion. But Brahma's creation did not exist in isolation. The other two aspects of Brahman, Vishnu, the preserver, and Shiva, the destroyer, were essential to maintaining the universe. Vishnu watched over the world, ensuring that the cycles of time continued smoothly, while Shiva, his power to destroy, stood ready to renew the world when the time came for its rebirth. The universe, like the great lotus, had unfurled from the navel of Vishnu, and now it bloomed in the vastness of space. Brahma, having fulfilled his role as creator, would soon retire to his place in the heavens, while Vishnu would remain vigilant and Shiva would wait patiently for the time when the cycle must begin anew. In the time before time, there was only the vast darkness of Lake Titicaca, where the great god Viracocha slept beneath the still waters. Nothing existed but this dark void. Then, one day, Viracocha emerged from the lake, stepping onto the shore with a vision to create the world. With a wave of his hand, he summoned the sky, the earth, and the stars. From the depths of Lake Titicaca, he shaped the sun and the moon, placing them in the heavens to bring light to the empty world. But Viracocha was not yet content. His first attempt at creating life was flawed. He sculpted giants from stone, beings of immense size, but they displeased him with their behavior. In his fury, he sent a great flood to destroy them and turned the disobedient ones into mountains and stone. Determined to begin again, Viracocha fashioned a new race of humans, smaller, made from clay rather than stone, and he breathed life into them. He sent them forth to populate the lands, each emerging from caves, rivers, and sacred places. Viracocha gave these people language, culture, and purpose, teaching them the ways of the world. With his work complete, Viracocha set off on a long journey across the land, awakening more people as he travelled. He taught them wisdom, art, and law. When he reached the city of Cuzco, he founded it as the heart of civilization. Then, without warning, Viracocha walked to the edge of the Pacific Ocean and, with his 2 loyal servants, disappeared over the waves, never to be seen again. Yet before he left, he gave a final warning. Beware of false men who might come and claim to be him. Though Viracocha vanished, his creation endured. The people honoured him, knowing that the world, the sun, the moon were his gifts. And so the Inca civilization began, guided by the divine teachings of their creator, always looking to the skies and mountains and the lakes that held his power. In the time before the world existed, there was only the heavens and a vast swirling sea below. From this eternal void, the gods decreed that 2 deities should descend from the celestial realms to create the world. These deities were Izanagi, the god of creation, and his sister and wife, Izanami, the goddess of creation. The two stood upon the floating bridge of heaven, Ama no Ukihashi, gazing down at the endless ocean. In their hands they held their Ame no Nuboko, the jeweled spear of the gods. Together they dipped the spear into the sea below, stirring it gently. When they lifted the spear, drops of salt water dripped from its tip and crystallized into the first landmass, the island of Onogoru. Pleased with their creation, Izanagi and Izanami descended from the heavens to live on the island. The divine couple built a grand palace and performed a sacred marriage ritual to unite their powers. However, their first attempt at creation was flawed. The children they birthed were deformed. Izanagi and Izanami consulted the gods and realized they had performed the marriage ritual incorrectly. Repeating the ceremony, with Izanagi greeting Izanami first this time, their union proved fruitful. From their union, the islands of Japan were born, one after another, forming the archipelago. But their work was not done. Soon they began to create the deities who would govern the various aspects of nature. They gave birth to the god of the seas, the god of the wind, and countless others, yet tragedy awaited them. When Izanami gave birth to the god of fire, Kagutsuchi, she was terribly burned by the flames. Her injuries were fatal, and as she lay dying, more deities were born from her tears. In his grief, Izanagi slew Kagutsuchi, but this could not bring back his beloved wife. Heartbroken, Izanagi decided to journey to the underworld, Yomi, to retrieve Izanami. He descended into the land of the dead, calling out for her. Izanami, hidden in the shadows, told him that it was too late. She had eaten the food of the underworld and could not return. Desperate, Izanagi begged her to come back, but when he lit a torch to see her, he was horrified. His once beautiful wife was now a decaying corpse, crawling with maggots. Furious at being seen in this state, Izanami chased him out of the underworld, vowing to bring death to every human being. Izanagi barely escaped Yomi and sealed the entrance with a massive boulder. Upon returning to the world of the living, he underwent a purification ritual to cleanse himself of the taint of the underworld. As he washed, more gods were born. From his left eye came Amaterasu, the radiant sun goddess, and from his right eye, Tsukuyomi, the moon god, and from his nose, the storm god, Susanoo. Thus, from the union of Izanagi and Izanami, the world was created, the islands of Japan were born, and the gods who rule the cosmos came into being. But the sorrow of their parting left an indelible mark on creation, establishing the eternal balance between life and death, light and dark. In the beginning, according to the Maya, there was only the endless sea and the sky above, and all was shrouded in darkness and silence. There was no land, no mountains, no living beings, just the calm waters. From this primordial state emerged the first creators, Tepeo, the maker, and Gukumats, the feathered serpent. Together they brought forth the earth from simply speaking it into existence, calling out for land to rise from the waters. The gods then created the mountains, valleys, and forests, and they filled the world with animals, birds in the trees, fish in the seas, and wild creatures roaming the lands. Yet these creatures could not speak or worship the gods. They displeased the creators, who desired beings who could honour and give thanks to them. Tepeo and Gukumats first attempted to create humans from mud. These beings crumbled and dissolved, too weak to survive. Determined to try again, the gods formed humans out of wood. These wooden creatures could walk and speak, but they had no hearts or minds. They lacked gratitude and reverence. Angry at their failure, the gods destroyed the wooden people in a great flood. And even the animals they had misused turned against him, devouring them. Finally, the gods called on the wisdom of the grandmother goddess Shmukane and the grandfather Shpiyakok, and decided to craft humans from maize, the sacred corn. From this crop they shaped the first true humans, beings with hearts and minds. These new humans were perfect in their creation. They could see everything, understand the world fully, and honour the gods with a proper reverence. However, the gods grew uneasy, realizing that these humans were too powerful, possessing perfect knowledge. To prevent them from becoming equals to the gods, Tepeu and Gukumats cast a mist over their eyes, blurring their vision so that they could only see what was necessary for survival. With the creation of humans complete, the world entered its fourth and final age. From these, the first men and women, the Maya people descended. The gods had finally succeeded in creating beings who would honour them, thus completing the great cycle of creation. In the beginning, before the heavens and earth existed, there was only a vast swirling chaos. Two great forces ruled over this primordial sea, Apsu, the god of fresh water, and Tiamat, the goddess of salt water. Together they mingled their waters and brought forth the first gods, who filled the universe with their clamour and chaos. The younger gods, energetic and unruly, disturbed the peace of Apsu, who could no longer sleep. Frustrated, Apsu decided to destroy them. But one of the younger gods, Ea, the god of wisdom, learned of Apsu's plan. Clever and resourceful, Ea put Apsu into a deep sleep and then killed him, scattering his essence into the cosmos. Furious at the death of her partner, Tiamat, who had been nurturing and maternal, transformed into a monstrous dragon. She rallied her forces, summoning serpents and monsters to wage war against the younger gods. Chaos threatened to reclaim the universe. It was then that Marduk, the son of Ea, rose to challenge Tiamat. Marduk was strong and wise, and the younger gods, desperate for a champion, promised him supreme power if he could defeat Tiamat. Marduk accepted on one condition, that he would become the king of all gods if victorious. Armed with winds and weapons forged by the gods, Marduk confronted Tiamat in a battle that shook the cosmos. With his mighty net he captured her, and with his winds he filled her with air, causing her to bloat. Then, with a decisive strike, he split Tiamat in two. From her body Marduk created the heavens and the earth. One half of her body became the sky, stretched across the universe, while the other half became the land. Her eyes became the sources of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, and from her ribs Marduk formed the mountains. Having established order from chaos, Marduk then created the stars, the moon, and the sun, setting them in the sky to govern time and guide the world. He assigned the gods their roles, dividing the heavens, earth, and underworld between them, but his work was not yet complete. He needed the beings to serve the gods and tend to the earth. To create humanity, Marduk used the blood of Kingu, Tiamat's chosen warrior, whom he had also slain in the battle. Mixing this divine blood with the clay of the earth, he fashioned the first humans. Their purpose was clear, to serve the gods, offer sacrifices, and maintain the order Marduk had brought to the cosmos. Thus the world, as the Babylonians knew it, was born. Shaped by the heroic deeds of Marduk, his victory over Tiamat symbolized the triumph of order over chaos, and from that moment on, he ruled as the supreme god of heaven and earth. In the beginning there was only darkness and the void of Te Kore. Within the endless nothingness, the potential for creation lay dormant, waiting for the moment to awaken. From this void emerged Te Po, the realm of darkness, where Ragi Nui, the Sky Father, and Papatuanuku, the Earth Mother, were locked in an eternal embrace. Their union created a world filled with potential but devoid of light. As time passed, their many children were born in the cramped space between them, longing for freedom and light. Among these children were powerful gods, Tane, the god of the forests, Tangaroa, the god of the sea, and Tawirimatea, the god of the winds. The noise and movement of the younger gods disturbed the peace of their parents, and soon they could no longer endure the confinement. In a brave act of rebellion, the children decided to separate the parents. Tane took on the responsibility, using all his strength to push his father, Ranginui, away from Papatuanuku. The earth trembled and the sky roared as the two were finally torn apart, allowing light to flood into the world for the first time. This moment marked the transition from Tipoto Te Ao Marama, the realm of light and life. With the separation complete, the world began to flourish. Papatuanuku provided nourishment, giving birth to forests, mountains, rivers, and all living things. Each of her children claimed dominion over different aspects of the natural world. Tangaroa ruled over the seas, while Tane governed the forests and birds. The winds became the domain of Tawirimatea, who, in his fury at the separation of his parents, would lash out with storms and tempests. Though the children had brought forth life and light, they still felt the sorrow of their parents' separation. Ranginui wept for his beloved Papatuanuku, and his tears fell as rain upon the earth, nurturing all living things. Papatuanuku sighed deeply, and the mist raising from the forest symbolized her longing for her partner. As the ages passed, the gods worked together to shape the world, creating a balance between land and sea, light and darkness, joy and sorrow. In the beginning there was nothing but the vast void known as Ginnungagap. This empty space lay between two powerful realms, Niflheim, the land of ice and mist, to the north, and Muspelheim, the land of fire and heat, to the south. As these two realms collided in Ginnungagap, steam and mist arose, and from this primordial chaos emerged Ymir, the first of the giants. Ymir was nourished by the milk of the cosmic cow Audhumla, who also emerged from the ice. As Audhumla licked the salty blocks of ice, she uncovered Buri, the first god, who would go on to father the lineage of gods. Buri had a son named Bor, who married the giantess named Bestla, and together they had 3 sons, Odin, Vili, and Ve. The 3 brothers grew increasingly discontent with Ymir and the chaotic giants who inhabited the realms. In a moment of courage and unity they plotted against Ymir. While he slept they approached and killed him. His immense body became the foundation of the world, his flesh transformed into the earth, his blood flowed as the rivers and seas, and his bones became the mountains. Ymir's skull became the dome of the sky, upheld by 4 dwarves named Nordi, Vestri, Sudri, and Austri, who supported it from the corners of the earth. With the world taking shape, Odin, Vili, and Ve sought to create humanity. They found 2 logs washed ashore, one of ash and one of elm. Odin breathed life into them, granting them spirit and consciousness, while Vili and Ve bestowed upon them senses and intellect. Thus, Ask and Embla, the first man and woman, came into being, destined to populate Midgard, the realm of humans. As the gods continued to shape the world, they placed the sun, moon, and stars in the sky, establishing a rhythm of day and night. They constructed the great Yggdrasil, the world tree, which connected all realms, Asgard for the gods, Midgard for the humans, and various realms for other beings, including giants and elves. Thus, through the sacrifice of Ymir and the creative efforts of Odin and his brothers, the cosmos was born, setting in motion the rich tapestry of Norse mythology filled with gods, giants, and the tales of their interactions that would define their existence. In the beginning there was only the endless expanse of water and sky. Above reigned Olorun, the supreme deity, while Olokun, the goddess of deep waters, ruled the mysterious depths below. In this primordial state, a desire arose within the heart of Obatala, a significant deity of creation who sought to shape the world. Obatala approached Olorun with her humble request to create dry land for the creatures to inhabit. Olorun granted him permission and advised him to seek counsel from Orunmila, the god of wisdom and prophecy. Orunmila instructed Obatala to gather specific items: a long gold chain, a snail's shell filled with sand, a white hen, a black cat, and a palm nut. Once prepared, Obatala hung the gold chain from the sky and began his descent. As he climbed down, he poured the sand from the snail's shell into the waters below. He released the hen, which began to scratch and scatter the sand, forming the foundations of the land. Hills and valleys emerged where the sand fell. Elated by this miracle, Obatala named the new land Ife and planted the palm nut, which sprouted into a magnificent palm forest almost instantaneously. Feeling lonely, Obatala decided to create the beings to keep him company. He fashioned figures out of clay, but as he worked he grew tired and indulged in palm wine. Unbeknownst to him, his drunkenness affected his creations, resulting in many imperfect beings. When he called upon Olorun to breathe life into them, he was horrified to discover that they were deformed and flawed. Swearing off alcohol, he took it upon himself to care for the imperfect beings, thus becoming the protector of the deformed. As the population of Ife grew, so did Obatala's reputation among the gods. However, Olokun, the goddess of the waters, grew angry at having been excluded from the creation process. In her fury, she unleashed a great flood, submerging much of Obatala's land and threatening the lives of his creations. As we conclude our journey through the diverse creation myths that span cultures and continents, we've uncovered the rich tapestry of beliefs that shape our understanding of existence itself. These tales remind us that creation is not merely an event, but a profound and ongoing process, one that connects us all through the shared themes of life, struggle, and rebirth. As we look to the heavens and the earth, we can appreciate the myriad of ways in which humanity has sought to explain its beginnings and find meaning in its existence.